And we are live.
Thank you. So welcome everybody to our regular meeting of council for February 1st. I would like to call this meeting to order. You have before you a copy of tonight's agenda. I'm looking for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Councillor Anderson and seconded by Councillor Dufert. Any questions to the motion? All in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Any declarations of interest? None being noted, we'll move on to announcements, awards, ceremonies, and presentations. Do we have anything from council? Nothing noted. Anything from administration?
No, Your Worship.
Okay, so moving on to item number 5, administrative inquiries, and I'll pass it back to SAO Smith.
Thank you, Worship. Good evening, everybody. We will start with the Director of Finance, please.
Good evening, and thank you, Your Worship. Finance Administration continues work in preparation for our year-end audit. The auditors will be commencing their work next week, and we're hoping to have the audit completed within the legislated time frame this year, which is an April 30th deadline. I've also been continuing work on Fraser Place and working on getting additional information together relating to the cost of service study that we performed. I'll be bringing that to Finance Committee next weekend. So that'll be guiding the discussion relating to how we will go about applying the rate increase for our utility customers. That is my update for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for our Director of Finance? Okay, none being noted. I'll pass it back to SAO Smith.
Thank you, Worship. The Director of Protective Services.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening. Not too much new with the Protective Services Group. Had probably one of the busiest months I've ever seen with ambulance. We did 66 runs last month and brought in somewhere in the area of about $66,000 worth of revenue on doing those calls. Checked on the ambulance or the new ambulance here the end of last week, and we're looking at probably an April delivery. The holdup on that was getting the chassis delivered to the manufacturer of the body and that with the ambulance company. And that was due to the pandemic problems with Ford. And also checked on our tower. We're waiting for the drawings to come in so that we can send to Stantec to get approval to make sure that the tower can be mounted on the building. And that's about all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for our Director of Protective Services? None being noted. I will acknowledge and thank all those that have been so busy with our ambulance, and we definitely thank our volunteers for all their hard work. Back to SAO Smith.
Thank you, Worship. The Director of Recreation and Community Services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As far as updates this week, programming and services at the community center remain similar as per the previous weeks. What I can update is that we are expanding the after-school programming to include Monday to Thursday programs for youth. So we're returning to services that we had, similar services to what we had before Christmas, so November, December. We've also posted the schedules and are taking registrations for February, March fitness programming. All other services remain the same at this point, though we have reached out to the local environmental health officer and we've been advised that we should be submitting an exemption, an application to vary from public health requirements with regards to swimming lessons and possibility of changing our swimming, our weekly swimming schedule to expand the age groups given the current situation and given the numbers we're seeing at the Aquatic Center. On the rec administration side, we have been working towards achievement of 2020 and 2021 capital items. We did have some carryover items from 2020. So we will be going to request for proposals for the Hay River Community Center security camera project. We should be going to RFP shortly for that project. We've received some feedback from local contractors, and I feel comfortable we can prepare the RFP at this point. We're also working with some interested parties and looking to continue with our purchase of fitness equipment for the multi-purpose room. Some of the COVID realities have made us realize that we need to reevaluate a little bit where we were sitting at with that. So I will be returning to the rec committee and to council for a bit more for confirmation of the direction we're taking with that. But at this point, we're doing some investigating. We're also working towards completion of some of our funding contribution agreement commitments for 2021 with a March 31st deadline for purchase of additional docking for Port Landing and some preparation towards some of an access road that we will be working on there this summer. We're also purchasing $50,000 in conferencing equipment for the community center. And we have some tourism marketing and development initiatives that our Tourism and Economic Development Officer is working towards. Lastly, we've submitted an application to the GNOBT's anti-poverty funding program, funding application of $50,000. That deadline was this past Friday, and so that was submitted. We also have a deadline of this Friday, February 5th, for Canor expression of interest, and we're submitting a multi-year application, quite a significant application for revitalization of Bob McMeekin Park. We are also, I think the SAO noted last week that we met with representatives of GNWT Infrastructure regarding summer cap program. We got some direction from them, and so we'll be preparing a funding application for our 2021 summer cap activities, likely to be oriented towards Port Landing and the Hay River Golf Club and Ski Club road, which requires some pretty significant repairs from erosion and a bit of water management issue there around there. Those are my updates at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for our Director of Recreation? You guys are getting off easy tonight. Back to SAO Smith. Thanks, Stefan.
Thank you, Worship. The Director of Public Works and Services.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a few updates from Public Works this week. Our Public Works guy's been working on snow clearing last week. Some of it's continuing into this week. Getting sanding done as needed and where it's needed on the roads. We expect our new flusher to be arriving either towards the end of this week or early next week, so it'll be good to get that and start using that. Other than that, you'll note that the water license renewal report is on the agenda for later tonight. I also had a call with a couple of people with Mackenzie Valley Land and Water Board late last week, just to discuss a few of the items that we noted in the new license, just minor issues, but just working on how to clear up those minor issues and make a couple of minor changes to the license. And other than that, we're just working on designs, RFPs, tenders for 2021 projects, familiarizing ourselves with the new procurement website that we intend to use this year for all of our tenders and RFPs. And that's about all of my updates this week. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions for our Director of Public Works? Councillor Willows, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Questions, comments around the water license renewal? Should I hold on till new business or now?
No, when it comes up, I believe.
All right.
Thank you. Any other questions? None being noted, back to SAO Smith.
Thank you, Worship. A list of some items not covered through the director's updates that I'm tied into. Fraser Place is very active right now for multiple members of the team. You'll note that we did share some information with the public regarding the planner's report that came through council last week as part of the first reading of the rezoning. I also noted some councillors as well sharing information, so that's good to see. I think obviously there'll be a lot of questions right now at this stage that might be directed to council. We would suggest as well that if you need some help with that, to indicate that people can reach out to us by calling or using townhall@hayriver.com. It is early stages for that project, as we know. There'll be more information coming to council. Hopefully by the end of this month, we're trying to meet that deadline. And then that information and more to come for sharing with the public with respect to the consultation period and information on the design, etc. So we'll be anxious to get that type of feedback and information provided to the public then. We did have a meeting today, our project team, on the project plan and discussing the land development proposal and options on development and financing that will come towards council. Again, as I said, hopefully for the end of the month. We received late this afternoon a contribution agreement to execute with Sports Canada and MACA through the COVID emergency funding, and this was going to provide an additional $10,000 to support recreation costs that were impacted by COVID. We have to spend that by the end of March 31st, and we certainly will. MACA is undertaking a review of the Property and Taxation Act. As part of that, there's consultation occurring with the tax-based communities. So I will be having a meeting with them on Wednesday. It's primarily the focus is on taxation and property assessment procedures there. So we do have some input into how that's handled. So we look forward to that meeting. Been in contact with Lands and ITI, trying to help facilitate the movement of the fish plant land transfer arrangement between the town and Department of Lands. So activities occurring there. We had a meeting with Rotary last week to discuss their heydays and their plans for 2021, and specifically the support for a major funding application that they rely on. So it was a good meeting, good outcomes coming out of it. I think we'll be able to provide support for them and their application to Heritage Canada through our donations policy and some in-kind support. Some more communication with MACA regarding our community plan and the procedures and process that must be used for, or is to be used for, updates that are facing us right now for our community plan. I think those discussions went well and the procedures make sense. So we will be following those. One of the items to get to second reading is on the agenda tonight. Meeting with our legal team last week on a few issues. One was a few items that need some attention. One of them is a traffic bylaw. I do expect to get that returned here this week, early this week. And that's already gone through the policy committee and will be coming forward to council. We advertised for our Director of Protective Services. Hopefully you've seen that, shared it with prospective people that would be interested in applying for that position. And if so, the deadline for that is February 22nd. We're kicking off a couple of our new items on our strategic plan. One is around economic development, and essentially the scope of that one is really just meeting with developers, major employees, businesses, discussing their plans, our plans, working towards joint opportunities to help each other for economic growth for the community. And also our website refresh project, which seeks to improve our content and some of the timelines and how we deliver information through those electronic services. So we'll be doing that. We're in the early stages, but plan to have information updated, removed, and changing very soon. And I think that's all I have for you tonight.
Thank you. Any questions for our SAO? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Mute button's not working there. Question back on Fraser Place. Some of the questions I've been getting is our pricing rollout, and would we be expecting that around the same time as when they were talking about a further report? So lots of people have been asking what they would be priced out at. Do we know that yet? And will we have that information fairly quickly? Or
I believe our SAO was commenting on that earlier and that it was to be rolled out sometime this month. But I'll pass that back to SAO Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Certainly, we'll be working with some of the preliminary numbers that we have. I think it's important to recognize that, like, we do want council to look at some of the financing options and how we will be, how we want to move forward with the development. True test really comes through a tendering process as well, which is scheduled for later this year after completion of some tasks such as detailed plan or detailed design. So that ultimately presents, what the market cost will be from a developer's perspective. So I think a bit early to be getting that information out. We might start with some projections, but really we won't know until we get into our contract agreements.
Thank you. Further, Deputy Mayor?
yeah, I just had some people concerned about. Late in the winter season, often the snowplows get big, and I don't know if it's a public works or a bylaws or issue there, but some of the snowplows around the community, or like especially on the corners of intersections, seem to be getting bigger and bigger. And I don't know if there are piles or individuals, but a couple people just saying the piles are getting big. So I'm just wondering if we could have somebody kind of have a look around the community, see where those snowplows are building up.
Fair enough. SAO Smith, did you want to comment?
No, we'll take that as input. We have been trying to note a few of them, but between our bylaw and public works and services, we'll address what we can there for sure.
Thank you. Any further questions for our SAO? None being noted, we'll move on to item number 6, new business. 6A, water license renewal report. Now, this is exciting. I'm sure our director is excited that this is finally completed as well, administration. So looking for a motion. Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Worship. I move that the Council of Town Haver accepts this report regarding the town's new water license as approved by the Minister of Environment, Natural Resources.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Chambers. Any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Willows.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, this has nothing to do with the motion. I'm in support of the motion. It's just more of a question. I don't have it in front of me here right now, but if I recall, I think there was some comment with increased charges again as a result of regulations and some of the additional testing that's going to be required in the future. So I don't know if we actually have a number we can put on that. But it occurs to me that the mayor and the deputy mayor are going to the NWT Association of Communities meeting here shortly. And certainly one of the things that I think you put forward a motion or an amendment or something to that nature was regarding increased costs to the communities, not the least of which was the fire at the dump, which again, a good portion of that was all about regulation and regulation changes. So it's just sort of a continuation that as regulations change, the cost of our doing business changes, but there's nothing coming back from the people who are asking us to do this testing in terms of increased funding. So it just seems to be another opportunity to put an oar in the water over that in terms of the water license. Thank you.
Thank you. So the question is, how much testing has, how has the testing increased and by how much?
Correct. If we can put a number to that. I know nobody's probably got an answer tonight, but if we could get an answer to that at some point.
Yes, absolutely. SAO Smith, did you want to comment or?
Thank you, Worship. So administration has had some conversation around that, and you can see in the report in itself highlights some of the new activities. I think overall, considering the scope of what's involved with the water license, there isn't too much new changes, but I'm not sure if the Director of Public Works has had some time to put some ballpark figures together on what these impacts of the changes are, but I'll pass it to him. It is something that we've been talking about.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, don't have anything too definite right now in terms of the cost for additional testing. As far as the annual testing that is required out of this new license, there isn't a whole lot of additional work required under the SMP, which is the monitoring portion of the license. There is a little initial work, including installing a couple of new monitoring wells at the landfill. So that'll be an upfront cost, but as in terms of the year to year, right now we're not seeing much of a significant increase. It's a lot of the testing is going to be the same. Adding 2 extra test holes is going to increase our costs a little bit, not too significantly. The one item I would note, though, is as part of the new license, they've asked us to do a study on potentially the effects on the water coming out of the landfill fire. So there will be additional testing in year 1 required for this, I guess, post-fire landfill study, is what they're calling it. And then that study will be submitted to the Mackenzie Valley Land and Water Board at the end of year 1. And there may or may not be recommendations coming out of that for future testing to monitor any long-term effects coming out of the fire. Initial ballpark estimate on the cost for that study is about $40,000. So that'll be in year 1, but then I guess the long-term costs of any additional testing that will be required coming out of that won't be known until that study is completed.
Thank you. Any further questions? Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Yeah, and it's along the same lines as some of these. I mean, in the report, it talks about different plans we have to do in 2022, 2024. They're adding more plans and surveys they want done, studies they want done. It's just like they have no problem downloading more and more for us to do, and yet they're underfunding us. And like it's a water license, but is it? And we tested. We had no issues with the water when the fire was going on, and after the water had been dumped on there. So it's free board for them to just download more information, and they want more information that they just put in a shelf and nothing gets done with it, or the study doesn't indicate anything, but it's costing the town of Haver more money every time. Like it's right along what we've been complaining to the GNWT about the whole process is that they have no problem adding, you do this, you do more study, you do more testing, but and it costs us $40,000 here, $20,000 there, not on top of all our staff time. Like I can't, we just about have to have a full-time person we're dealing with this water license now because they think it's an issue, but it's not an issue. They haven't proven anything to be an issue. So it's not really a question. It's just again, I like Councillor Willis'
Frustrated statement.
Yeah, exactly. Need to bring this to the association.
I hear you. And we are requesting a meeting with the Minister of ENR and MACA and going over some of these costs that are associated not only with the dump fire, but our water licensing continuing. So you will have a chance to express your concerns directly.
Yeah.
So any further questions in regards to the motion? None being noted, all in favor? Thank you, motion carries. Item 6B, Hay River Golf Course and Nordic Center renaming report. Looking for a motion. Counselor Dowie. Seconded by, I'll get somebody seconded here. Counselor Dufert. Go ahead, Counselor Dowie.
Thank you, Worship. I'll move the recommendation that the Council of the Town of Hay River approves the renaming of Fairway Drive to Hoffman Way and name the golf course campground the Vern Tordoff Memorial Campground.
Thank you. Any questions to the motion? All in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Item 6C, consensus of population report. As we all know, the censuses are very important to all of us because you need to count yourself in. It's all about funding, how the federal government funds us, as well as how, it does a lot more than that, but it is very important on that area and how much money the feds give the territorial government and in turn what we receive. So I would like to remind the residents of Hay River that it is very important that you do count yourself in. And with that, I'm looking for a motion. Councillor Dufert, seconded by Councillor Chambers. Any questions to the motion? Comments? All in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. A little slow on the draw tonight, guys. Item number 7A is Bylaw 811-18B, Community Plan, second reading. Looking for a motion. Councillor Dowie, go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. I'll move second reading of bylaw number 1811-18B.
Thank you. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Bouchard. Any questions? All in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Item 8 is an in-camera session, so looking for a motion to go in camera. Councillor Dufert, seconded by Councillor Chambers. All in favor? Okay, I'd like you to all turn your mics on and I will ask you one by one. Do you solemnly swear and sincerely affirm that you are alone and cannot be overheard while in camera? Councillor Anderson.
I swear, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Willows.
Swear.
Deputy Mayor Bouchard.
I swear.
Councillor Grunewagen.
I swear.
Councillor Chambers. Thank you. Councillor Dufert.
Thank you, Your Worship. I swear.
And Councillor Dowie.
Thank you, Your Worship. I swear.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to give everybody, how about we're back here at 7:05.
Okay.
Couple of minutes and I'll